It is often said for people like us, the trans community, once you start your transition, you kind of transition for the rest of your life. And it's very, very true. At the beginning of my transition, I made tremendous changes into my life. I blew up my life and it kind of picked up the pieces and did me to the best of my abilities. And at that moment, I was so driven. And I sometimes look back at pictures of myself pre transition or at the beginning of my transition, and I was like, wow, you were so brave back then. Um, you had so much drive and so much fire. And now I think to myself, I'm like, I don't feel like I have the same thing anymore. And sometimes I wonder why. And of course, because at the beginning of my transition, I had so much I wanted to change. And at that point in my life, especially pre transition, I was so unhappy in a lot of ways, and especially in myself. But as I started to transition and you start to grow and you start to evolve and become, you start seeing these wonderful changes that happen in your life. And then it feeds you to obviously want more as you step into your most authentic self. And that is such a wonderful time in the transition, in your early transition days, when the things start life starts changing so drastically and you start really stepping into that person, and how wonderful it feels. They call that gender euphoria. And it's been interesting that gender euphoria, as much as it kind of fades, it actually becomes so much more real. And as you transition later and later, and you transition more and more, and say, like I'm 6 years into my transition these days, and unless I'm talking about it here on Instagram or YouTube, I'm not really thinking about it so much. Because why? Because I'm happy and I'm here, and I, you know, not that I feel like I've stopped evolving, because I think that that's the next topic I'm going to talk about. But really, the large part of my transition part is over, and now it's evolving, just like everyone else hopefully is evolving. And that, I guess, is what I consider part of the next parts of my transition. It's just me living my life, um, you know, always changing and improving, and you know getting better in the ways that I can, and that's what we call evolving and growing as a person, right? And what does that mean, though? What does that mean to evolve and to grow? And I think for me specifically, as I'm really, really good at knowing who I am, and my confidence comes from that knowledge that I know who I am, and I love who I am, and as a result of that, I can be a really good reader of this person and be like, well, what is the direction that I want to go in the next, to be the next evolution of me? Um, and we're always on that state of evolving and growing and becoming. And there is no end, there is no destination, there is only direction. And the direction is either not towards your most authentic self, stuck, or moving towards your authentic self. So there's only three choices. You either are going away from who you are, you're stuck for a number of reasons, you can be stuck, or you're moving. And when you're moving forward, you can be moving slowly, you can be moving quickly. Sometimes steps are tiny and sometimes they're huge. And as long as we're pushing and we're making changes, that's when those small or really big steps can happen. And so, again, it comes back to this idea that it's direction. And if, as long as I'm moving in the direction of my next self, my next evolution, then my journey is called happiness. And it's a journey of happiness that I want for everyone. Um, People who are walking their most authentic path and their most authentic self, and they're improving, even if small pieces, those people are what I would call happy. Someone who feels stuck, this is a really tough one, because when you're stuck, you feel you're in that moment, and when you're stuck, it could be a day, it could be a month, it could be a year, or it could be a lifetime. And when you're stuck, everything feels like a lifetime. And that is the really difficult place when sometimes, we are either our biggest supporters or we're our biggest bullies. And I would always say, try to be your biggest supporter and not be your biggest bully. Don't be the reason why you're stuck. Be the reason why you're moving forward. And we won't even talk about that other one where we move in the opposite direction of who we are. I did that for 42 years, and I learned that that path doesn't lead to anything but despair. And I am so happy to never ever go that path again. And so, of course, everyone gets in moments when they get stuck, but it is the feeling and the desire to move yourself forward, move yourself to the next step. And so, as much as I was making huge steps forward in my transition at the beginning of my transition, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, now I'm here. And if I felt stuck, yeah, I would be me, but I would also be stagnant. And being stagnant is one of the worst places you can be, other than that other one. So moving forward, how do we do so? Especially when we are now kind of in a place where I'm content. I like who I am. I love who I am. I love the people who I have around me. I have somebody who I love and loves me. I have, kids who I am in a great place. And, but again, if I stopped growing, even tiny little steps, I would always feel like I'm missing out. I'm missing the next thing. And of course, my transition is done. So all those steps are probably pretty small these days. But I have a whole other life outside of me being trans. It's just a tiny little piece of me. I am so much more than that, and have so many more desires and goals and wants and design and passions. And I want those things to grow and those things to become, and me to become that next Victoria. And I think that's what I want for everyone. And if you need help, if you feel stuck, if you want help in your transition or your fitness or just life, let me be the catalyst that helps you be unstuck. And that goes for people who are at the beginning of their transition, and that goes for people who are 10 years in. And we have clients from both sides of that spectrum. People who, I look at as like, hi, grandma. And then I have other people who are like, hi, baby trans. And sometimes those baby trans people are older than me chronologically. And sometimes those old trans ladies, they were 20 years younger than me because they started transitioning 15 years ago. And I'm like, wow. So we help people of all varieties, and we are just here to help you live your best life and get you to your next evolution. So reach out, DM, comment, do all that internet stuff that I don't know anything about, and reach out and we will definitely help you get there. Bye, everybody.